Okay, everybody, this is Brandon from Galaxy Doc Market. Welcome, community members, and for those of you watching a little bit later on X or YouTube, welcome. Okay, so we're going to get right to the business. Today is August 15th, 2026. It's Saturday, about 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as I make this video. And a lot is happening. So this week's video, we're going to talk a lot about the technical setups and especially focusing on the VIX for the stock market blow off top formation that's happening. Just to get really clear, we are very cautious. We have one eye open. We understand the historical precedents of how stock market tops form and result in corrections and crashes. We are cautiously bullish, continuously so. We believe that this market is headed to ES or SPX 8,000 plus. I believe this can go as high as 9,000 in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It doesn't mean that we're not bearish about macroeconomic conditions or things that are happening, but you have to trade the market that you see, not the one you want. Okay, so having said that, here's the disclaimer for those of you not in our community, and pause it, read it. If you agree, please move forward. And thank you so much for following us at x.com/galaxy.market. Like us, subscribe, and in YouTube if you're following us there. All right, so a couple of things. The Clarity Act did not pass. Our good for nothing Congress, all they do is grandstand and work for the lobbies that they are being paid to do so, especially Elizabeth Warren, or as Trump likes to call her, Pocahontas, is out there screaming from the top of her lungs and coming from somebody who lies about her national heritage of being Native American to gain acceptance into Harvard Law School and other things. When that charlatan is speaking loud, that is really indicative of who is pulling her strings. And she is out there. Boy, somebody put a mute button on her mouth. I'll provide the sock, please. Okay, so, but here's the thing. So, Congress, Senate, they take more breaks than I can even imagine and ever taking. I go nuts if I took 35 days of break every like 3 or 4 months. What is it exactly that they do? And the question, of course, is who are their masters, right? They certainly do not work for the American people. They say they do, and they talk very well about it. But really, these are some disgusting people that have permeated our country. And this whole notion about voting, how voting matters, it doesn't really matter. And I'm of the opinion that they present you candidates that have already been pre-selected on either side of the aisle. And it doesn't really matter who gets into the office. However, I do believe that there are some significant changes, and if you just look at how much President Trump is hated, that tells you the whole thing. And you may not like his approach and what he says, but he's the right man for the job. However, right here on this news, the Clarity Act did not pass, but you know what? SEC and CFTC is going to go ahead, along with President Trump and these leaders that you see, Coinbase, Ripple, Chainlink, A16Z, Paradigm, Kalshi, along with some of the big banks are going to be having a meeting. It did get canceled this week, but it pushed to Wednesday. I wonder why it got pushed to Wednesday. It's probably, again, I went on a little rant about our government, federal government especially, and they no longer serve the will of the people. But these are, these are, they're charlatans, and they're thin-skinned, unscrupulous individuals that want to take credit because whether they like it or not, really the effectiveness of Congress setting the laws, if they don't do it, we have governing bodies like SEC and CFTC that are pro-crypto. And guess what? Crypto is the digital money system that will replace the fractional reserve banking system that is failing. The debt-based system cannot continue. It cannot continue to print money and drive up debts because, first of all, most of the consumers are tapped out. Okay, economy is not that good, and it's not growing, despite the fact that we had these fake CPI numbers that keep coming out saying that inflation is tame. Just ask the average Americans trying to buy groceries or fill up their gas tanks, and of course they say it's temporary. But regardless, you keep printing money to oblivion, and do the things that they do. And if you look at every member of the Congress, starting from top to bottom, you must ask yourself, how in the heck do they get so rich on that meager salary that they have? Okay. And it's not because they're doing great work. It's not because they're geniuses. Okay. Have you looked at some of these Congress and senators on both sides of the aisle? Okay. I'm going to stop there on that. Okay. So it's progressing with or without useless Congress. Okay, that's what I said about 13 hours ago on this Coin Bureau, basically stating that they're pushing out to Wednesday. It's because probably the damn Democrat senators and Congress people understand, they realized in their little meager, like half an ounce of a fruit fly's IQ, understand that this will pass and this will become the regulation, and no matter what they do, scream, holler, whatever they're paid to do by their big donors, this is not going to stop, because they understand that the new money system must be implemented because the current system is dead. We're just pretending that it's Mitch McConnell's alive, right? We're pretending Maxine Mad Max Waters is alive somewhere. No one's ever heard of her for the last 7 or 8 months. What's up with our octogenarian ruling class? Have you seen some of these octogenarians? Yes, there are some healthy ones, not the ones in Congress and Senate though. They could barely stand or speak. How can they lead our country and make rational decisions unless someone is making it for them? Ask that question. But regardless, this Clarity Act, in one way, shape, or form, will pass. And pay attention this Wednesday, which is the 19th of August, when this is going to happen. Okay? And for those of you that are basically down about the Bitcoin and cryptos coming down, that's by design. They don't want you in it, right? XRP, I said, would be a generational buying opportunity around 95 cents to 85 cents. You have heard me say this over and over again for the last year and a half as this was going on. And for those of you, that is a generational buying opportunity. Don't be these people lined up when they flip the switch and flip the new money system and being in a hurry to buy XRP at $100, $50. Who knows where it's going to go? I don't profess to know where it's going to go, but it's got to be a higher price to provide liquidity to a damaged system and to create a new sound money system. So let's look at the other things that are happening. And of course, Trump's World Liberty Financial has become a received a U.S. bank charter. And I've always said that this World Liberty coin is going to play a huge role in the upcoming implementation of the digital currency to replace the current fractional reserve banking system. And then, of course, when you look that XRP is the de facto standard for incoming digital monetary system, and all those naysayers that are out there saying that it's not, or trying to scare you out of the money, is because they want to get cheap XRP from retail. Remember, XRP was not designed to be accumulated or even be held by retail. It was designed for this exact moment because the powers that be understood that this fractional reserve banking system had an expiration date. And you can tell by the preponderances of wars, first the Ukraine war, now the Iranian war, slew of health scares. And then if you haven't been paying attention to the Fauci situation, okay, you've all been lied to, folks. So you can see here that the Morgan Stanley and Franklin Templeton and BlackRock, they all have now ETFs. These are real on their balance sheets while they're trying to scare you out of your own position. So the whole idea is these are on sale. And you know why they're being delayed, all the FUD that's going on, and all the frustrations of this deep bear market in the cryptos is going to pay off if you can just basically not fall into the trap of selling your assets in panic. Instead, buying them because these are on Kmart Blue Light Special, folks. Okay, all of these three events really is indicative of what is coming. All of the stuff that's been happening, whether it's war or pandemics or fear of bubonic plagues, all of those are direct relationship of them trying to scare you into submission while they accumulate assets to bring in a new monetary system. Of course, the elites get richer, and those that aren't prepared are going to remain poor and subservient to the New World Order. So the bottom line is this a coincidence? Do we even need Congress? Did the meeting get canceled that was scheduled for last week because the hapless Dems want to take credit for the Clarity Act now? I mean, it's going to happen whether they like it or not because the fractional reserve banking system is dying. And all of these things, all of the conflicts, all of the confusion, and all of the fear that's being perpetrated into our market is to do exactly that. They want you to look over there and not look over here as they're implementing this new digital money system. Now, the other thing that should be worrying people, and everyone thinks I'm nuts right now for being cautiously bullish, is the fact that around the world, and we're targeting right now Japan and China, their money system and debt system is collapsing. Okay, so when you look at People's Bank of China, PBOC, they've done their first reverse repo to boost their debt market. And this is the same playbook that Bernanke famously used during 2008 financial crisis. Basically, this is meaning that the banks are insolvent, that they're overladen with debt, and China prints just as much money as we do. Okay, and this is why they call it the currency war, and it's not exaggeration why I say, hey, look, this whole currency war is a race to zero. Whoever gets to zero value on their currency wins because it means that they've accumulated most amount of assets with the hyperinflation of their currency and debt market. Okay, that's what's going on. So you have to pay attention. The end is coming. It's just that it won't happen without the blow off top finishing, and that can take some time. And so this is why we are cautiously bullish. And if you look at Japan, of course, the whole yen carry trade dogma of what's going on and that unwind has forced the U.S. and Japan to jointly intervene in the yen market. But this is the last gap. Stopgap attempt to buy time so that the Clarity Act can pass and all the banks, governments can accumulate enough XRP and all the other digital currencies with utility to set up for the collapse of the current money system and to bring that into the new money system. And that requires hyperinflation of assets. So as a result, we have this dark clouds, and I mean dark clouds are forming. Black swans are swimming everywhere. And yet, I still remain steadfastly and cautiously bullish, but ready at the moment any type of black swan events occur to flip bearish. But we have a little ways to go, folks. If you follow the historical an analog, sorry, I can't talk this morning again, you will see that, the more things change, the more things remain the same. And last week's video, we went over just how the blow-off tops are formed using different examples from different stocks like Tesla, Amazon, SPY, and how VIX behaves. And so we're near there. And we're moving into that pivotal climax top formation, which is coming soon. Okay, folks? And that means what climax top is that we have low volume activity right now, and we're going to just grind higher, maybe some gap ups. And we had a couple of gap up days on the SPY 2 weeks ago, and then we moved sideways. And now we're setting up for that next gap up, and the volume is low right now. In a climax top, you're going to see 2 to 3 times, maybe 4 times average volume and these massive gap and goes, and everyone's going to think, and it's the bull market is here and the retail's going to jump in. If you look at the fear and greed index, which I didn't include in this video, we're at greed right now. Okay, despite all of these things that are going on, but despite the fact that market feels eerily bearish, people are positioned bullish, and that's only going to get worse, and we're going to hit that extreme greed level, and then that's when they're going to pull the plug. Don't think for a second that these banks are not selling into this rally, folks. But it must happen to bring in the new money system. You have to hyperinflate assets. You have to print money to oblivion. It's a race to zero, folks. Okay? So, what we do is that I want to show the blow-off top in process. And right now, the blow-off top process, the key to look at now is how the VIX is behaving. VIX is key. Okay? And on the surface, it is bullish. Okay? For the markets, that the VIX is coming down, but there are limits. VIX at a certain point, we're getting near that point, it becomes contrarian. What do I mean by contrarian? Okay, contrarian means that the VIX at a certain level, we're right now hovering around 14.5. We're moving lower, and for those of you bears looking at this, yes, the time is coming near, but it's not now, and that's what I want to talk about right now. Okay, so let's compare the SPX from 2020, the pandemic era. So from October 2019 to March 31st, 2021 versus today. Let's look at that SPX and let's look at the close analog of what's going on. So here is 2020, right here, 2020. Okay, this is 2020. This is not 2020, I'm sorry. This is the current. This is to 2026, okay? And then this is the 2020 analog right here. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is the fact that we are most likely in this phase right here before the blow off top and the climax run happens, before the collapse in the markets that ensued in the following years. Okay, so basically what we want to look at right now is what is going on with the SPX. Okay, we're currently in the August. Here's the two gap up moves, and then we basically essentially moved, and this is a daily chart, folks. And so for the last week and a half, we've been moving sideways, and this is a typical type of a sideways move right here before we move higher. And I believe that moment is coming. There is nothing here on the technicals that would suggest otherwise. We have continuation patterns on the RSI. Yes, we have a little bit of waning momentum in the MACD, but we just have a lot higher to go to hit these levels. And so while everybody is, every time we make new highs, bears are sitting there, and I will become a bear soon, but they're shorting every pops, and you just can't do that. Okay, you have to understand how this mechanism works. So let's look at the VIX from 2020 pandemic era versus today. And in this situation, the left here is the pandemic. Okay, right here. This is the 2020 daily on the VIX, and then we have current situation. What it models is, here's that initial VIX spike, which led to the correction, and I think this is where we are, and now we're in this sideways movement that ensued before the VIX exploded above 80 plus, and that is coming. And I think I always thought again that the market correction would come late October, but now based on the developments, I believe, and we will fine-tune that, but let's set out 2 to 3 weeks of this blow-off top formation to occur. Okay, right now we're chugging sideways, and one of the things that you want to look at is that anything below 12 and a half is basically area where you have to start getting really bearish. We're at 14.5 right now. We're getting very, very close. We're just grinding lower on the VIX, which means we're grinding higher on the S&P 500 or QQQ, NASDAQ, or what have you. Now, this is something that I want to say. We've been engaged in this sideways consolidation, kind of the side, we popped above and came back down into this consolidation area. We're now moving below that, and anything below this 12.5, we have to pay attention to. Okay, we're getting close. And that the fact that we're going lower means that we are setting up for that blow off top, climax top formation. So there is one more rip your face off rally. It's going to change everybody's opinion how the new bull market is forming. Fear and greed indicator is going to flash extreme greed. Everybody's going to say, just like in the Lego movie, everything is awesome, but it's not. Okay, that VIX below 12.5 becomes contrarian, folks. So low volatility is bullish for the markets for now, except at extreme ranges. So VIX below 12.5 to 11.5 is the danger zone. That is where I would probably, not financial advice for those of you looking at watching me on x.com or YouTube, but VIX at 12.5 to 11.5, you almost have to be compelled to buy the VIX calls, right? Buy enough time, allow enough time for this to accumulate. But that's our plan as a community. So let's look at some macro analysis, shall we? All right, so this is what we're looking at, and one of the things that I've been saying is that dollar is weakening because of the intervention against the Japanese yen, but I always said the currency is a race to zero. Whoever can hyperinflate assets and then basically use that to accumulate real assets, right? Take the paper assets and convert it to real assets. That's what Trump is doing right now. Okay, the 10-year yield is rising. This is a warning sign, but we've really been trading sideways, right? Really hasn't been doing anything. Of course, the reason why the 10-year yield keeps rising is because no one trusts our debt market anymore. Not Chinese, Japanese, or any other markets. They're all imploding. The question is, who accumulates these digital currency, gold, silver, farmlands, precious metals, rare earth minerals, armies, and things like that. It's becoming very, very apparent that oil, gold, silver, all of the wealth is being grabbed from the hyperinflation of the asset that is dying. Right? It's a race to zero, folks. And yet, with all the stuff going on in Straits of Hormuz, Trump just recently said, hey, look, we're going to own the Straits of Hormuz soon, or whatever the case is. Well, if that war was going so bad, then we'd be way above 150 barrel. And all we did was just bottom here, form a dead cat bounce, and we're probably going to chop around here until some sort of a resolution comes. But that resolution won't come until a new money system is put in place. Then look at gold and silver. Gold, and it has been just chopping around this critical level. This is a critical level, 44.60 level. And then for silver, we're right on the critical level. We're just chopping around again, up and down, up and down. And once we take out these upper levels, we're off to the races. If you haven't learned anything from January of this year, when silver went on its run, it could easily double and triple from these levels probably within a week. Okay, I believe that once we get up to here, start taking out the $72 range on silver, we're going to go up into the previous all-time highs within a few days. Okay, so, and then of course we covered VIX. Okay, the other one is obviously Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, right? They're moving lower. It really is because they want you out of these cryptocurrencies, right? And so, you got to buy them when they don't want them, because the big boys are buying it. Morgan Stanley already has the ETFs. Don't buy the ETFs, okay? You don't want to buy the ETFs. You want to buy the real thing, real gold, physical gold, silver. And if you can't do that, or if you're basically into leverage, then go into the futures market. But you do not want to be owning the ETFs of XRP, okay? XRP is getting close. I mean, my 95 cents target is getting closer and closer every day. We're on a downtrend. I think there's going to be one more flush. I'm hoping 95 cents to 85 cents. That's a generational buying opportunity. Okay. Don't get scared out. Okay. Don't be these guys that are lined up to buy XRP when it's at $1,000. You've seen those pictures that I've sent out before. Okay. So that's it for the macro analysis. Let's go into the technical charts now. Okay. First and foremost, when we look at the SPX, this is from Friday's close. Okay, everybody's afraid because we dropped like 18, 20 points from hitting all-time highs on this SPX and ES. Okay, here I got some news for you folks. This is the Monday's gamma exposure, and yes, it's subject to change, but this is the way the big boys are positioned. 7800 and 7850 are about the same. I assume we're going to basically ping around this area. I think these negative gamma really serves to place a floor into this move. Now, SPX and ES are about 40 to 50 points apart, so anywhere between 7840 to 7900 is probably going to be the target, although these 7900 levels are still in existence. We have a gamma drift where we have the calls outpacing the puts. Okay, this is a very bullish sign. So are we going to get another one of those euphoric Mondays? I believe so. Why change? I mean, it's been doing that forever. Let's quickly go into the McClellan Summation Index. I said a few weeks ago that, hey, look, everybody's bearish, but, we're going to continue to grind higher. Here we are. We're breaking out above the top level. RSI is making higher highs, and then basically we have a MACD crossover and the histogram is coming up. We're going higher. We're going to go all the way up into this area. I believe Trump administration and the markets are headed to 8,000. My minimum measure move on this is at least 8,500 or higher, okay, on the ES. Okay, so let's see what's happening on the SPY. Let's get rid of these arrows. Okay, SPY, this is the weekly chart. Okay, how is this bearish, folks? Okay, we made new highs and we're just going to probably start gapping higher at this point. Okay, this is SPY, and we're headed to 800 on the SPY, which is equivalent to about 82, 8300 on the ES shortly. Is it going to happen on Monday? I don't know. But I think that we're going to make a good run towards the 7,900 to 8,000 shortly, Monday or Tuesday. Okay. Here is the, again, the daily chart. We already went over that. So we're just going to, this is kind of the zoomed in view, right? I mean, how's this bearish? This is a bull flag, folks. Okay. We have RSI that's moving higher. Okay. Yes, the histogram is coming down a little bit on MACD, but it's just building energy to move higher. This is a low volume rally, folks, consistent with blow off tops. And then our long-term SPY, obviously this is a long-term trend. Usually these led to, hitting these levels led to these sell-offs. But, we're just resetting. We'll recalibrate this area. And I think we're just moving higher, forming that. This is why I think we're forming the climax top / blow-off top formation right now. Markets cannot crash without the blow-off top formation, folks. Okay? All right. So let's see. And this is my long-term time cycle analysis. Just essentially just remember that at the bottom is when the market peaks. We have ways to go before this next circular area, it just comes in. So I think we're moving higher. Okay. Silver, I don't know, folks. I've been saying for a while that these were all bottoming formations. We just need to get above this 20 SMA. We're off to the races, right? This is silver. This is all-time highs, like 122. We hit it as high as 121.85, and that can happen very, very quickly, folks. Okay, silver is the most manipulated asset in the world. Okay, thank you, COMEX. Okay, we already talked about VIX. Here's gold, weekly chart. Okay. So we had a phase 4 parabolic liftoff, and then it topped out, and then we came back down. Now we're bottoming. It's the same thing. It looks the same, except gold is now challenging that 20 SMA. Look at the RSI. You don't think this is going to break out? Buy gold. The new money system will be run on digital blockchain, obviously, and I think it's going to be XRP, but it's going to be tokenized to these real-world assets like gold and silver. Okay, that's what this is all about. So let's move right along at this point. And I want to talk about Take-Two at this point. And Take-Two is something that I've been watching for a while. It's on one of our watch lists. And one thing is that we are bearish on this name. And it's been forming these lower highs, obviously, and we've got this downward sloping trend line. We have the declining RSI volume. It's been on an uptrend, okay, but it's losing momentum. And so this is something that I want to pay attention to. And then we have BIDU, which is reporting earnings this week, okay. And we want to see if BIDU can find support in this area. We have some divergences forming, okay? If this area falls, we're going right back down into this area, and I think we're going to have our answer in the earnings. And so this is something that we're paying attention to. All right, so something else that we want to look at is another Chinese name, and let me move in there, is BABA. Okay, so BABA, it's been on our watch list also, okay? And BABA is a little different than BIDU. It's more crystal clear cut. We just need to get over this overhead resistance, and then we can start moving into this 166 area. Everything looks fairly bullish, and it is a bottoming play. It's been selling off for the last year or so, okay, on a downward trend. I think that's about to break right here, okay? Now, let's look at Apple, okay? Apple may be telling us something, right? Apple is the market. Have we formed a blow-off top yet? I don't think it looks that way, although this is a weekly chart. We're continuing to find some support in this area. I believe if we can just get over this 80 MA, we're going to retest, maybe get a little below the candle body here, and then start falling down as the market tops, okay? And then, of course, Home Depot reports earnings, and Home Depot is bearish. For me, I want to see any bearish actions. Negative divergences here. We have this kind of ending diagonal area, and a sell-off off of the 80, not 80 MA, but near the top end of the Bollinger Band. Okay, we have MACD that is negative, so keep an eye on these names at the moment. Earnings season is kind of in the mid stages towards, and probably winding down a little bit. The ones that I'm interested in is on Tuesday. It's the Home Depot, BIDU, okay? It's very important that you look at these, okay? And I'm not saying front run earnings, but these are likely to have big move potential. Target has been on a tear for whatever reason, and then Lowe's, any home improvement names are basically going to be bearish at this point. The one that you really want to pay attention to is on Thursday before the market opens, Walmart for the barometer of the market. If Walmart takes off, it's going to take the market above, with it. I'm bullish on Alibaba, okay? And so that's what we want to look at. And so, just do your due diligence here. So the takeaway message is market blow-off top formation is forming. We're waiting for the climax top and run, and there's some more move upside to go despite everybody thinking that it is bearish. And yeah, it is bearish. Yeah, I think a market crash is coming to a gigantic proportions. It's just not the time. So climax top is in progress. VIX is the key. We talked about what levels we're looking at. That below 12.5 is you have to automatically start looking for market tops. Watch dark clouds form as we make climax top, and that includes the war not going well in Iran. That's all distractions. But look at what's happening with the bond markets in China, in Japan, what's happening in the United States. The Clarity Act, okay, has not passed, but we had a delay in the meeting where CFTC and SEC is going to form the regulation for cryptos anyways. Look at, what's happening with the banks, okay? Banks are now pro-crypto. Morgan Stanley, everybody is buying ETFs for XRP. That is the new digital currency, okay? It is, it's the reserve digital currency. It's just going to provide liquidity to sop up all of these excess printed money, hyperinflate the assets, and crash the old system. That's what's going to happen, folks. Monthly OPEX is this week, so expect volatility and wide price swings. And so what we're watching is the climax top formation, SEC meeting on the 19th of August, this Wednesday. Okay, the market's going to probably pre-price in this bullish action. Is it going to be kicking off the flip of the switch moment? No, I don't know. We'll see. We'll deal with it. You just got to accumulate cryptos and precious metals when they're cheap right now. Get in when nobody wants it. Don't be scared out of your positions. HODL. Don't fight the bull. Trump will pump this market to 8,000 plus before correction. Blow off top is in progress. I've been saying this for a while, waiting for a climax top. We're watching the VIX, folks. Okay. It's just not time to be buying calls on VIX, but watch it carefully for clues as to the direction of the markets. Okay. ES, SPY, and QQQQ. I think we're finally in that stage where we're going to be over the next couple of weeks putting in that blow off top. Watch Monday. Okay. Home Depot earnings are this week. BIDU earnings, BABA earnings, Apple and Take-Two. Watch those two. I didn't put stuff here, but Palantir we're still bullish on. Okay, and we're just gonna stay bullish, but keep your position small. Raise your cash. Shorting opportunity of a lifetime for those that are patient is coming, but right now we're cautiously bullish. Okay, so thank you so much for following me at Galaxy Market, and like us, share us, and above all, comment and subscribe on YouTube. You want to learn about working with me, you have to email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com. You want to join our entry-level Essentials community membership for most seasoned trader. That's all you need. You get my market commentary, daily market commentaries, breaking news, chart analysis. We have our own set of watch lists, which has been fantastic. Okay, there are other tiers of mentorship programs, but that is the one that I think for most people should suffice. Gives you a lot of content that you don't get on X or YouTube. $49 a month. Otherwise, be careful out there. Okay, you know where we stand. Let's get some alpha. Bye-bye.